What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another video. Guys, in today's video, we want to talk about the late, great Nelson Mandela. Now, I know he was the world's greatest statesman. I know he was the world's longest serving political prisoner. I know he was the world's face of struggle, face of freedom, the face of anything related to what it meant to be black. Nelson Mandela. That's who he was. Now, question: was Nelson Mandela a hero or a traitor? That's the topic and that's the issue of the day. Let me know what you think of today's topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Road to 500 if God willing. Inshallah. Holla. Let's get into it. Check. Holla. People, let's start. Well, we're not going to start from the beginning because everybody and their grandmothers know who Nelson Mandela was, right? And so we're not going to get into his biography. And that is all over the internet. It's on Wikipedia, it's on WikiLeaks, everywhere. And we can go and read up on the life and times of Nelson Mandela. We want to talk about a specific event or specific things that Nelson Mandela did or did not do that led to the title of this video. Now, before Nelson Mandela went into prison, right? Nelson Mandela always preached that he wanted a just and equal society for all, where black people, white people, coloreds, and Indians lived in harmony, had fair share of the economy, and that people lived rich lives, right? Because the economy and everything was supposed to be shared. The wealth of the country was supposed to be shared among the people. Mandela also had this idea of nationalizing things, right? Like, the mines, the banks, everything. Like he was of that mind that the wealth of the country should be shared equally. And how are you going to do that? And the only way to do that is to nationalize the national resources and state institutions and, um, businesses and companies and resources that actually benefit the country as a whole. That was his thing. Okay, that was before going into prison. And that was his stance while in prison. Okay, fast forward 18 years later, 25 years later, Nelson Mandela is released from prison. Now, bear in mind, Nelson Mandela served 18 years on Robben Island. And then the balance of that was served in Victor Verster prison, okay, which is well documented. Okay, what is unbeknown to most people, which even came as a shock to me, is that Nelson Mandela, when he came out of prison, it's not like the way it's depicted in the movies. It was a totally different scenario from what I discovered during my research on this topic. I mean, guys, do you know that Nelson Mandela he lived with a mining family? Do you know that Nelson Mandela he was invited to stay at the home of one of South Africa's richest mining families? And that was a big shocker for me to find that out because, I mean, to be honest with you, I would have thought that after being unjustly arrested, right, and serving 27 years, locked away for 27 years in prison, then Nelson Mandela would have come out better, right? That was my initial thought, right? But then it dawned on me that obviously when he went in, he was in his 40s. He was like 44, 45, right, when he went into prison. But when he came out, he was in his 70s. So obviously that bitterness possibly was eroded and he just accepted his fate and he was just too old to fight on, and you know what I mean? Okay, fast forward 18 years later, Nelson Mandela comes out of prison. Now the tune he sang while going into prison was not the same tune he came out singing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because now gone was that whole communism, nationalism ideology. It's like he fully embraced capitalism. Now, this is the tricky part. Did someone or did people whisper things in his ear for him to abandon his nationalist, communist, um, did I say, leftist ideology? Because if Nelson Mandela wanted a just society, he would not have allowed the things to happen as they did under his watch, under the first 5 years. Because believe you me, when Nelson Mandela went into prison, he had spoken about the land redistribution. When he came out, that issue was never addressed the way it was supposed to be addressed, like the way they actually said they were going to do it. In fact, they then turned it around. The ANC, speaking, turned it around and said, willing buyer, willing seller. But that was not the deal. That was not what Nelson Mandela and them spoke about before he went to prison and while he was in prison. How can you have a willing buyer, willing seller situation when the land was taken, stolen away? How? Did the colonizers negotiate with the people that they stole the land from? Were people forcefully or were the people willingly removed in the Group Areas Act? No, they did not negotiate. It was non-negotiable. So why was the land now a negotiable thing? And when at first it was a non-negotiable thing when the colonizers took it. Now my question comes in. Who spoke to Nelson Mandela? And what did that people, or what did that person, or what did those people say to him that made him change his mind? You see, that is the big issue of the day, because that was the beginning of the problems we are seeing today in South Africa. And mind you, that is at the heart of most of the problems in most African countries. That when independence was gained, the first immediate issue that was supposed to be tackled was supposed to be the land issue, redistribution, which most countries did not address at the time. And that would have saved a host and a whole lot of problems further down the line. Today, we can't talk about land redistribution anymore because it's far gone. People are now talking about money they need to be reimbursed. Reimbursed for what? The land was stolen. You stole the freaking land. Now you want to be compensated for land that you stole? Yeah. Wait a minute. Let me see. Let me go and steal a car. The owner wants it back. Well, you're going to have to buy it from me. How about that? See what I'm saying? Okay. A lot of people are going to come in the comments and they're going to tell me, oh, I'm racist. I'm going back in the past. I'm that. No, friend. If you did something wrong in the past, correct it. If you're holding on to things that are stolen in the past, return the stuff. That's what you do. That's what logical people will do. That's what realistic people will do. But guess what? Because you are gaining from stolen property, you are not going to let go of it. In fact, you're going to fight tooth and nail to hold on to that stolen property. And Nelson Mandela, well, not Nelson Mandela, but Julius Malema is actually right. The majority of the white-owned land in this country is actually stolen property. They're actually in possession of stolen property. Because if you go back to history, dude, I can promise you now, right? If you committed rape in 1930, 1940, 1950, 1960, 2024 now, and the law catches up with you, they don't care if you're 80, 90, 70, or 80, 90 years old. They will still prosecute you on those crimes you committed way back in the day. So, why can that not apply to the land situation or to the land issue? I'm just saying. Okay, back to the topic at hand. So Nelson Mandela comes out. He goes and he lives with this great mining family, right? One of the richest families in South Africa. He lives with them. But before he lives with them, he's in prison, right? And these colonizers and these nationalist party leaders, the former white regime, party members are visiting him. And mind you, Nelson Mandela was kept separately away from the rest of his comrades. Wasn't that suspicious? So I'm thinking it's during that time that Nelson Mandela was having these secret meetings with the former white regime, that they began to soften him, right? Then apparently Britain got involved and said things should not change, because then they'll bring war to the country if land was taken, the companies and this and that. I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness. So we fought for freedom. Well, we weren't there, but Nelson Mandela and the ANC and the people that did fight for freedom. You went, committed yourselves, your lives, your families. You risked, you sacrificed a lot just for you to be told that things should remain the same. Why? I mean, how does that benefit the majority of the people who looked up to you, who actually were looking to you as a savior for you to give them back what was rightfully theirs? How? Okay, fast forward. Monies are exchanged. Deals are made. They are satisfied. The top end of the political spectrum. But the people at the bottom, they're left with nothing. You see, so people rejoiced when Nelson Mandela came up because they knew, or they thought, that the land was going to be given back to them. That didn't happen. In fact, they were told, willing buyer, willing seller. Okay, let's rewind back. 1948, your land is taken. You are displaced from your home. You are relocated in the Group Areas Act. You are moved to a sandy area. You moved to a sandy area, right? You are first living in a fertile soil area. Then they decided they want that land for themselves. They're going to move you to a sandy, rocky area where you can't really plant anything. You can't grow food in those areas. They move you there. Okay. You don't own okay, at least the least they did, at least they built you houses. So at least they didn't just throw you out onto plain land and you have to put up tents. At least. Thank you for that, at least. Now that I own that sandy property there, right? Those matchbox houses, right? Now they say willing buyer, willing seller. Are they willing to buy that sandy property? You're not even happy living there. You don't even want to sell it because nobody wants to buy it. So where does this willing buyer, willing seller notion come into play? That's my thing. So we come back again to the question, the topic of the day. Based on what you just heard now, is Nelson Mandela, do you think Nelson Mandela was truly a hero, or was he truly a sellout? Because yes, Nelson Mandela sacrificed a lot for the country. Yes, Nelson Mandela fought for this country. Yes, Nelson Mandela is the father of the nation. Yes, Nelson Mandela has done a lot of good for this country. We cannot deny it. It's undeniable, the stuff that Nelson Mandela has done for this country. No dispute, cannot lie, cannot deny it. Now, we want to talk about that small little issue that has now spiraled and snowballed into a mountain of issues. Which, if that small little issue was dealt with in the beginning like he promised, we would not be sitting in the mountain of poo that we are sitting today. Do you believe what I'm saying? Do you think it's right what I'm saying? Do you resonate with what I'm saying? Or do you think I am just talking? Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. So next we get into the pros of Nelson Mandela, and obviously after that, we get into the negatives, right? So road to 500, God willing, inshallah. Oh yeah, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we're family, right? Holla. Yup, fresh out the hood. Okay, so let's start with the pros. So Nelson Mandela came out and started preaching unity. And he preached unity through sport, right? Now, I don't know, and I can't say for sure if this was Nelson Mandela's initial way of thinking, or if Nelson Mandela was coerced into thinking this way, right? But the sad thing about it is that the Nelson Mandela that went in is not the exact same Nelson Mandela that came out. Now, I'm not talking about age. I know people mature with age. But I am talking about ideologies. And I'm talking about realities. Because there is a big difference. Nelson Mandela went into prison knowing full well that the weight of the country's black, colored, and Indian population was on his shoulders, right? He had broad shoulders and he was carrying the weight of the people of his country. Okay. While Nelson Mandela was in prison, nobody, even his comrades in arms, were surprised at his change of tune. They couldn't believe it. They were like, what? When? How? Okay. So, when Nelson Mandela came out, he maintained that stance. So, obviously, everybody knows Nelson Mandela had secret meetings with the white people, with the government officials, with business people, and they were concerned about their livelihood. They did not really care about the rest of the country. It was their livelihood that they wanted to protect. And to protect their livelihood, they had to talk to the main man at the time. And the main man was Nelson Mandela. They knew if they got Nelson Mandela to heed to their demands, in turn, Nelson Mandela would get the country to heed to their demands or to his demands, which were actually their demands. They were just using Nelson Mandela as a vessel. So, according to my research, guys, this is a hard pill to swallow. But truth of the matter is, Nelson Mandela was talked out of most, if not all, of his ideologies. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. Really bitter pill to swallow. Because knowing how Soweto looked like when Nelson Mandela went in, surely Nelson Mandela would have come out thinking, knowing that he should improve the lives of every single human being in Soweto. Even if it meant just giving them some of the military land that they can go and plant, they can do something on it to gain as a community, not giving each individual like land, but to say that this piece of land, this 10 hectares of land, or just give an example, right? 10 hectares or 100 hectares of land is for the people of Soweto to make businesses, to do whatever it wants, just to gain money for Soweto so they can develop Soweto. So fine, not everybody's going to get a piece of land back, but we are going to gain from the land. Even if it means we own this land, build buildings on it, and rent it out to foreign companies who then take their rental money and give it to the people of Soweto so they can sustain or grow the economy of Soweto. Something on those lines. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the pros of Nelson Mandela has to be the unification of the country through sport, has to be the aversion of war post 1994, no, post 1990, because Nelson Mandela had to do a lot of putting out fires. He had to put out a lot of fires because people were angry, especially with the murder of Chris Hani. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The country was teetering on the brink of civil war. And Nelson Mandela came through and said no. He begged, he pleaded, he did all that he could to avert a civil war. And that was a plus sign of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela also went around the world campaigning for donations, campaigning for investment, campaigning, and he did a lot for the country in that way as well, And Nelson Mandela put South Africa on the map. Those that didn't even know about South Africa, they knew about South Africa because of Nelson Mandela. There are so many good things Nelson Mandela has done for the country. I mean, dude, I just cannot even mention all of them. But those are a few of the good things that Nelson Mandela is part of the pros, right? So if you want to know all the great things that Nelson Mandela has done, you can go and Google as well. Like I said, we're not going to get into the real history of Nelson Mandela. We just want to really focus on the small little issue. But the one last pro good thing that I want to mention that also touched me, that I really just felt like, yeah, Nelson Mandela, he really did something great. Nelson Mandela decided, because he loved children, right? He was the children's, he was everybody's grandpa, everybody's grandfather. Nelson Mandela did something that no other president in the world has done. Not to my knowledge, right? I don't know if it's in other European countries, or I don't know, but I can only just speak about what I know in Africa, right? Nelson Mandela built a state-of-the-art hospital. I'm talking about a big, normal, adult-sized hospital for kids, just for kids. That's how much of an impact kids had on his life. That's how much love he had for children, because he said children are innocent souls. They did absolutely nothing wrong to deserve the hate, the torture, the anger, the crimes, just the pure hatred that goes on in the world. And for him, he just felt that the children needed something of their own, something for themselves. And a great way to pay back to the kids, I think, was building the hospital. I think that was a step in the right direction. I really do. I couldn't think of anything better than, I can't think of anything. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do for kids, but I never in my life ever thought of building a hospital just for kids, man. Yeah, that's a great move. I gotta say, that's a great move. Next, we get into the cons of Nelson Mandela, or at least on this topic on Nelson Mandela. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, guys. Road to 500, God willing, inshallah. Holla. Oh, wow. Who there? Who there? So, here's the cons of Nelson Mandela's time, right? People, number one, Nelson Mandela did not address the most critical issues that surrounded the country at the time. And the biggest of them all was the land redistribution issue. One. Two, Nelson Mandela and them talked about the mines. They talked about the banking. They talked a lot about how the people were supposed to be benefiting from the economy. They spoke about it. It was part of their policies. It was part of their manifestos. It was part of everything. But when it came down to it, they didn't really address the critical issues, right? And those same critical issues that they chose to ignore, because of whatever reasons, or whoever whispered or whoever said anything to them, has now come back to haunt them. Right. Now, Nelson Mandela is seen by many as a sellout, sadly, because they feel betrayed by his inaction to address the most critical issues that affected Black people to this day. Right. Number one, let's look at the Khoisan, for example. The Khoisan have been dispossessed of their ancestral land, right? African Black people have been dispossessed of their land. Who else? What else? What else? The economy remains largely in white hands. And that was not what Nelson Mandela spoke about when he said a just and fair society for all, right? They were supposed to dissect the economy and redistribute everything, which they didn't do. Now, how were they going to do this? Obviously, now they had to find ways through companies, through trusts, through organizations that were going to administer these things. But money, power, greed, what else? I can't think of any other words that I can use to describe how these people were talked out of doing those things that were meant to benefit black people and colored people and the Khoisan people, right? It's heartbreaking to go around South Africa and seeing people that used to own. You know, when people talk about, man, we used to live in that particular area. We had so much land. We used to plant. We used to farm. We had goats, cattle, this. And then you look at where they're living now. They're living in Soweto. They're living in matchbox houses. They're living in almost, dude, it's heartbreaking. It's for people to tell you how they lived in the 30s and 40s. Let's say in the 20s, 30s, 40s, you know, the great grandfathers or the grandfathers, grandparents, how they used to roam around, have lush green fields. And now when you, and then they tell you like for the last, for what, 50, 60 years, they've been living in concrete jungles, in sandy stone rock areas. Then it's hard, dude. It is heartbreaking, and it is so painful to know that there's this leader that you revered because of the reputation and the sacrifices and everything he stood for and everything that he once um, pioneered and fought for. Is the very thing that when he came out, he chose either not to address those things, or he chose to ignore it, or he just chose to focus on other issues that were, I'd say, less important, but I would say that he would have thought are critical at the time, you know. But to be very honest, I know violence was an issue that had to be addressed immediately, 100%. But once that was sorted immediately, they had to then turn to the land issue, which to this day they have not done. And that, sadly, why some people say Nelson Mandela has become a sellout and the people didn't get what they were hoping for from all that. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Was Nelson Mandela a hero, or did he then become a sellout? Feel free to criticize, feel free to comment, feel free to compliment. You know, that's what the comment section is there for. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, guys. Road to 500, God willing, inshallah. Stay blessed, stay humble. Your boy out. Holla.